The nation's new codeine laws are officially in place, despite our best efforts to rally against them. You can't buy codeine medication over the counter because you can't be trusted anymore. You can't be trusted to get some Nurofen Plus or some Codral cold and flu, even though 99.98% of the time there's no problem. But because of the 0.002% of the time there is, well, we all have to suffer. The 5.5 million codeine purchases every year are going to turn into 5.5 million more GP visits. So good luck getting an appointment. Now, the independent Senator David Leyonhjelm has come up with a different spin on things today. He says if we can't access codeine anymore, we should be able to access medical marijuana to get rid of the pain. Senator David Leyonhjelm from the Liberal Democrats is on the line. Senator, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ben.
Just firstly and briefly, this is absolute madness. We've spent so much time trying to stop these changes from coming in, but can you believe that the 99.998% of people are punished because of the 0.002%?
Yes, I mean, I'm with you on this. I think it's ridiculous. We see it on so many areas where a tiny percentage of people misuse something, and that's used by the bureaucrats and the law people to say, well, that means all of us have to pay the price. It's applied to so many areas. And in this instance, unfortunately, it's a bit of a global thing. And so our bureaucrats, and we've challenged our bureaucrats at estimates and in various other ways in Parliament, when we've said to them, well, what do you think you're doing here? And they said, oh, it's part of a worldwide thing, as if that's some sort of justification, My view is if the rest of the world is wrong and we're right, then we should stay right, not join the rest of the world.
Well, it's like mobile phones. I mean, with mobile phones, people misuse mobile phones by staring at them when they're crossing a road or touching them when they're driving a car. We don't turn around and say, okay, no, we're getting rid of the mobile phones.
Yeah, no,
we put things in place. They've brought things in at pedestrian crossings, certain pedestrian crossings where the red and the green lights are down at ground level to acknowledge the fact that people are looking down. I mean, we put heavy penalties in place for people who are touching their mobile phones while they're driving. But anyway, we all have to suffer. You've come up with an idea today to say, okay, there's going to be some empty shelf space in some of these chemists. Maybe we can fill it with something else.
Yes, well, I've been battling now for several years on the medical marijuana issue. In fairness, I'm not the only one who's been doing that. There are others joined in on that. And in fact, it's got to the point now where there's not that many people who disagree with it, except that, and we passed some legislation 18 months or so back to make it easy for people who are sick, seriously sick, to have access to medical marijuana, except that almost nobody can get access to it. The bureaucracy is just throwing up rules, regulations, red tape, barriers, difficulties of all kinds, so that the end result is patients are continuing to suffer. Now, some of those patients would have been using codeine, and now maybe the option would be medical marijuana if they could get it. But of course, as I said, very few of them can get it. There's really just a handful of people who are getting it, legally at least, and still plenty of people who need it, plenty of people who benefit from it, have to go around and buy it illegally. Yeah,
and when it comes to pain relief, I mean, it's magic stuff, isn't it, when it comes to pain relief? And also, and I've done stories on this for television and for radio, when you've got people with some of those wasting diseases and they lose their appetite or they're going through chemotherapy and it's eat or die, well, it can really do something to spark that hunger and that appetite.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's not for everybody, but then again, I guess nothing is. There are certain types of conditions where the best solution, and in some cases the only solution, is cannabis extract. It's not necessarily the one that makes you high, but for some people that is the part that they need. But in either case, or in both cases, the difficulties of gaining access to it legally, notwithstanding the fact that Parliament has said, get on with it and make it available, it's just monumental. It's just people are suffering, tremendously because of this bureaucratic red tape that's thrown in their way.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder why aren't we able to go and get a prescription to go and get medical marijuana? And we're worried so much about the 100 people who die per year because they've misused codeine. Well, about 15,000 people die in Australia every year, as a result of smoking tobacco. So why don't we send those people off to get a prescription before they buy their cigarettes?
Yes, well, yeah. Be careful what you wish for. There are some...
Well, you know what I mean? If that's the argument, that 100 people are dying because of codeine and therefore you've got to go and get your prescription, 15,000 people die in Australia every year because of cigarettes. Why not make them prescription?
Yes, I know. Yes, the logic of it is inescapable. I quite agree. And, I mean, you know, you could equally say that you could say the equal sorts of things about alcohol too. Alcohol isn't, in most cases, a primary source of people dying, but it's certainly a significant contributor to hundreds of thousands of people dying. You know, so perhaps we need a prescription to buy a bottle of scotch. You know, that's the logic of it. And there are many areas where a small number of people who misuse something, which the rest of us enjoy and don't misuse, that small number is determining what the government's policy is towards all of the rest of us. I think it's a crazy way to go about it, and we should start dealing with these matters in terms of the normal, sensible, vast majority of users of these products. And then if there is a problem with a small number of them, a small number of people who have a problem with it, let's deal with them specifically rather than make it harder for everybody else. Agreed.
Great to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.
Senator David Leyonhjelm speaking some common sense on Radio 2GB this afternoon. I mean, if you've got 100 people who die every year because of codeine, and they say that, look, this can rot your guts if you're using too much codeine on a long-term basis, couldn't you produce some advertising material along those lines? And when people buy codeine products at the chemist, you say to the chemist, look, for the next 12 months we're going to hand out that leaflet every time someone buys codeine. Hand that out so people can see the graphic images of someone's insides being eaten out and someone saying this is what happens if you're misusing codeine, or you might end up dying. Can't we do it that way instead of taking it away from everyone